meet people where they're at and build the right thing and isolate the world, I guess, right?
That's right.
John Dykstra with the Size of Sound podcast. I've got my new friend Sean Morrison here from IsoAcoustics, the director of marketing at IsoAcoustics. How are we doing today, buddy?
Doing great. How you doing, John?
Doing awesome. So I'm from the acoustic panel world. You're from the monitor and other isolation product world. We are probably from the dorkiest end of the rock and roll spectrum. So apologies in advance, everyone. This isn't going to be the sexiest podcast episode, but I do think very critical, right? I mean, we serve critical roles to help people make music better and to help people enjoy music better. One thing that struck me as interesting about your folks' line that's not true of a lot of your competitors is you guys rate the load of the isolator that you're using, and that's so important, and a lot of people don't understand how important that is, that what we're working with here is essentially a spring, right? And that spring has to be at a point where it doesn't bottom out because the load's too heavy or doesn't move at all because the load's too light. IsoAcoustic takes that into consideration. A lot of your competitors don't. They just sell the monitor isolator.
That's right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it is important. I mean, it's the way our product works. Most of our products work within certain weight ranges. And there's kind of this bell curve. And so we have different models based on the weight of, for example, the studio monitor. And they're just kind of optimized for that weight. If you overload them, the performance is dropping, fairly quickly. So
to a point where it does nothing.
Well, that's right. It can become quite solid, and then it's effectively not really doing its job. Underloading it is also an issue because the isolator is just too solid for the weight it's supporting. So it's not really engaging the isolator and working effectively.
Right. So that sort of takes the hokum out of this for IsoAcoustics, much like professionally made acoustic products where, there's people out there doing this that are just kind of putting lipstick on something and calling it something it's not. And I appreciate that your company isn't one of those, which is just fantastic. How did IsoAcoustics get started? What's the give me the timeline?
Sure. So it is kind of an interesting story. So it was founded by my father, Dave Morrison. So he worked 20 years at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. He had a senior role in the design and construction of television and radio studios there. And actually what's interesting too, well, that building was, I think, the largest multimedia center in the world at the time of its construction. And it actually sits on 3,000 isolation pads, just kind of an interesting fact. But the real, aha moment for him was, they tested and decided on a studio monitor for the studio. He was quite inspired and purchased that, for his own home. And the designer of that speaker actually offered to come and set it up for him. So, and it was in that process that he realized just how important the placement of the speaker was and how much of an impact it had. And the designer actually said something to him that, stuck with him to this day. And that's the largest variable is out of his control. And you could think, what does that mean? Is it something to do with the speaker? But it's actually what people do with the speaker, how you position it, how you place it, the environment it's in, the room it's in. And that experience really kind of, I guess, started his obsession. So he was building prototypes, we were testing things at the National Research Council of Canada. IsoAcoustics was born, and that was 13 years ago. So in 2012.
Well, I mean, what is that testing product? The testing process. What does that entail? I mean, what are we looking for numbers wise and?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our testing is done at the National Research Council of Canada, but we also have a laser vibrometer we use at our own facility. We'll do a frequency response and actually just make sure there's no colorization. No loss of output at lower frequencies, for example, the cabinet's not moving in the opposite direction of the driver. But then we're also just measuring the vibrations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, testing is so critical when it comes to things of this nature, right? I mean, it's quantifiable differences. A speaker's properly isolated when it's on a desk. I no longer feel the bass through the desk when I'm leaning on the desk. And that's something that, you set up a testing microphone, and that's not really something that you can measure through the air because it's something that's happening physically. It's through that physical coupling of my elbows on the desk and feeling the bass that I shouldn't be feeling because I want to be hearing the bass. So taking that out of the equation is super important. I mean, obviously there's other examples of why this product line is going to be so important, not least of which is like keeping your downstairs neighbor from being a little less upset than they would be if you had that subwoofer, not decoupled from the floor.
And there's really three things to think about when you position, a speaker on a surface. It's first is kind of the one you alluded to. It's those vibrations from the speaker that resonate into that supporting surface, excite that surface. It can make your mouse rattle. There's some resonant frequencies that could really make some noise. And then the second point would be that these vibrations travel very efficiently and very quickly through solid surfaces. 12 times faster through a solid surface than through air. Right. The molecules are closer together. They can move very quickly.
Sure. So now there's a phase problem.
Yeah, and it's annoying your neighbors. It's traveling very efficiently. Yeah. I remember being a kid and seeing this kid down the street dribbling a basketball, and the sound was just not, in line with the ball bouncing, right? And I was just found that was interesting at the time. But with solid materials and even, I guess whales can communicate from thousands of miles apart because sound travels so efficiently through water. Sure. But anyway, the third point is really important, and that's actually that vibrations, they hit the ground and they actually reflect back as well. So our isolators are designed to really absorb that energy. And so we're eliminating the problems that are associated with that. So the smear, these issues can kind of replicate in two channels and impact your soundstage, clarity and details. So it makes quite a difference.
I'm a vinyl nut. I've got turntables at home, and I see that you guys have some feet that can be replaced onto turntables to lower mechanical resonance up through the turntable and keep the tone arm a little bit better. So, you guys got your feet in a lot of flames here in terms of fixing a myriad of problems when it comes to isolation. Aside from the turntable one that I know because of my little passion. What else are you guys isolating?
Yeah, the turntables is a good one too. They're so sensitive to vibration. Yeah. So we have some great solutions there. Some turntable manufacturers are actually integrating IsoAcoustics into their turntable. Oh, cool. But we are into some other spaces. There's some components that are a little bit more sensitive as well, tube amps and so on in the home audio space. So we're in there as well. We have solutions for Atmos as well. Height speakers. The V120 mount allows you to kind of take that same technology that's used on a desk and apply it to your height speakers. So you've got this room full of many speakers, where the whole idea of an Atmos immersive audio is having this immersive experience with the different placement of speakers. So when you can really dial that in and feel the positioning of the instruments and what you're hearing, it makes quite a difference.
Absolutely. To get all of the movement from that speaker coming from the speaker itself and not the things that it's tethered to, whether that's the ceiling, the walls, or the floor. Your sound is always only as good as your weakest link, right? So as long as you can remove a lot of these weak links from your signal chain, we think of it in a ton of different ways, and that home audio market specifically is just so ripe with things that people are willing to spend so much money on that do literally nothing. So, to have something out there that's actually quantifiably making a difference it's important. It's not just a pro audio thing. It's for those audiophiles too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So how long have you been with?
Well, yeah, almost from the beginning when we launched. I guess that was 13 years ago. So. I didn't jump in full time right away, but it was shortly after. As we grew, we really started with just the one SKU, an isolation stand that had height and tilt adjustment for studio monitors, and things took off quickly. And so it was shortly after that. It was all hands on deck, and it's been a lot of fun.
So let's say I'm in the market to isolate my speakers or my sub or something, I mean, do you guys have some sort of tool that people could use to like help navigate what's the right isolator for my situation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I mean, we've come up with such a wide range of products now that it's become a little bit difficult for customers to determine, what's right for their setup. We have a product selector on our website. It actually has a database of over 5,000 makes and models. So this ranges from studio monitors to floor standing speakers, turntables, so all sorts of applications. So you choose your application, select your make and model. It'll make a product recommendation, for what product will work for your system.
So you guys have just like gone out there and collected data on what every speaker weighs, what every amp weighs, what every turntable weighs, so that you can not force someone to somebody else's website to look at how much their speakers weigh, because what are you going to do? Take your speakers on a scale with you? No, you guys have done all the legwork there and figured out the right product based on just by model number.
It's been a lot of work for sure. And it's just kind of grown over time. So if we get an inquiry for a model that's not in the database, we help them out and we'll add it to the database. So it's just slowly kind of over time grown and grown.
Sure. So now, I mean, are all these isolators essentially the same thing? How are they made? Like what's doing the isolating?
Great. Yeah, good question. So in a lot of ways, they are very similar, at least. Our patented design consists of a top isolator, a bottom isolator, and a connector. And so it's really the way that the three parts work together. It's the material that we use, the characteristics of that material, the viscoelastic properties of it. But again, it's kind of the way that the three parts interact with each other. So they're basically absorbing that vibration. It's dissipated as small amounts of heat. And so that energy is not, resonating through or reflecting back. And it's, that's essentially how it works.
I've always heard that the heavier the load, the better success you'll have with isolation. So the idea here to some extent is that you'll put whatever the piece of gear is, maybe it's a lighter speaker, you put that on like some sort of marble plinth or something of that nature, and then use a different rated isolator. The end result is better. Is that accurate? I mean, the way I heard it presented to me, and it's a little bit absurd here because we're talking about extremes, but if you've got a very light speaker, that pistomatic motion of the woofer moving, if it's too light, the isolators that's using are pretty soft, and you can lose some amount of woofer throw because of the weight being too low. So is there solutions for that within the IsoAcoustic family that increases the weight of the load so that it works properly?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though, that heavier objects are easier to isolate. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just the formula with, isolating something's the spring mass formula there. But our products certainly do take into account that, if you had a subwoofer that was as light as a feather, the way you isolate it would want to move and there would be losses. So, that's one thing that we'll certainly test for when we're developing a product, so there's no loss of output. Sure. Our isolators are actually, it's kind of an interesting point you mentioned that our isolators are actually directional as well. When used with a speaker, the speakers, the energy from a speaker is very directional. Of course, you got your cones moving back and forwards. It's pushing air. So our isolators are designed to be aligned with the logo facing forward, or turned backwards, and it works that way.
And so there'd be a measurable difference there, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it does make a difference. That was something that we've sort of, I guess that my father determined over time that really kind of had an impact.
And you got to keep that piston motion from moving things in an unfavorable way.
Yeah, so with our products for turntables, that's kind of irrelevant, but for a speaker or subwoofer, it's important.
And so outside of the turntable and speakers, there's more hi-fi market out there, right? I mean, you guys are isolating a lot of different things there, is it?
For sure. No, there's equipment, but even in the pro space, guitar amplifiers, we've got our Stage 1 board, our Stage 1 isolators, so they make an incredible difference as well. Just much better accuracy, better clarity, for sure. Yeah. And in the home space too, we've really become quite popular in the pro and home, we've been working with a lot of other manufacturers. So there's a list of about 50 manufacturers that are integrating IsoAcoustics into their furniture, into their speakers, their equipment, including Argosy, a lot of high-end speakers as well. So yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Just meet people where they're at and build the right thing and isolate the world, I guess, right?
That's right.
Well, Sean, I'm really happy that you could stop by today and tell us about what your company's doing. I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm glad you're doing it the right way. I think it's important, and let's get all the snake oil out of the market, and you guys just take over for them. Hey,
sounds great.
Thanks for coming by. We'll chat again soon sometime.